All right, we are back with another episode of Mac Stories Unwind, the show that's all about the picks. I'm John Voorhees, and with me is Federico Vitici. Hey, Federico.
Hello, John. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday to you too, Federico. Hey, Federico, this show is brought to you by Collide, our Automation April sponsor.
John, before we get into our picks, and I promise I still do not have a video game pick, give us an update on, explain please to our listeners and to the people, like, what's the deal with the giveaways that we are doing for Automation April, and where can people find them, and what are the differences between the different types of giveaways we're doing?
All right, so we have done giveaways for years now in Mac Stories Weekly, which is the Club Mac Stories weekly newsletter that comes out every Friday, which is today. And we are doing that throughout Automation April. Every Friday we've had roughly 3, sometimes more giveaways in the newsletter. And, you open up the newsletter, scroll down, read a little bit about each of the apps, and then you're taken to a Google form where you can just put in your name and address, and we'll pick people from random and contact them about a week later with codes so they can download those apps. This year we're doing something a little different that we just started, which we're also doing different giveaways in our Discord. And the Discord is one of the perks of being a Club Mac Stories Plus or Club Premier member. And we have a special giveaways channel. In there, you'll find these posts. They're created by a bot that Alex Guillot made. And the bot is fantastic. I mean, for everybody's standpoint, because for users, all you have to do is go in there, look at the post, and click enter. And that's it. You're done. And at the end of the day, when we close the deadline for giveaways, I click another button and it generates randomly the winners and I can contact them. So it's a very streamlined process that works really well. We're doing that every single week. I've been doing it on Tuesdays, and people have, a few days to enter, and then we pick the winners and send out the notifications after that. So that's working really well. And if you're a member, if you want to join Club Mac Stories, you can just go to
Plus.club. Easy.
Plus.club. Because it's the Plus Club.
I just love saying it.
I know you do. Mm-hmm. Plus.club. It's a great URL. That was Federico's baby that he went and got several months ago. And it works really well in tweets and things because it's nice and short. All right. So that's giveaways, Federico.
Okay, thank you. I should also mention that, so this episode comes out on Friday. You have 1, 2, 3, 4. You have 5 days left to submit your entries for the Automation April Shortcuts contest. Submissions close on Wednesday, the 20th, at some point New York time in the afternoon.
I'm not going to say because I might be wrong, but yeah, it's in the post on Mac Stories.
They close on Wednesday, so it's on Wednesday. The details are on Mac Stories. Do not wait until the last minute, trust me. So you have 5 days to submit up to 2 shortcuts, right, per account, 2 shortcuts for the contest. Or I should also say you have 5 days to edit and fix your existing submissions, right? If you want to add some new details or fix the shortcut itself or make some changes, you can also edit your entry. So all you need to do is go to shortcuts. It's easy, very easy. Shortcuts.macstories.net. And it's super simple. You can log in with your existing club account. If you don't have a club account and you don't want to have to deal with Club Mac Stories because you don't want Club Mac Stories, that's fine. You can enter the contest with a free Mac Stories account. You just sign up for free. You don't have to pay anything. You will not get any other Club Mac Stories perk, but you will be able to enter the contest. So shortcuts.macstories.net. You have 5 days left.
Yeah, it's super easy, and it's been going really well. The entries are all anonymized, so we don't really know who's submitting them.
I have no idea who's submitting them. Yep.
Right. We're going through with our team of judges. It's the 3 of us at Mac Stories, Alex, Federico, and me, plus 7 luminaries from the Shortcuts community who are helping us.
Isn't that a podcast network?
It is, and it's the one that sucked in all of our content without our permission too. Who I sent an angry letter to. Well, I've always wanted to say luminary on a podcast. Maybe that's why. I don't know, Federico. All right. Maybe we should. Maybe we should
let's
move on to
jump
the
into
picks.
the picks. Let's move on to the picks. So, speaking of failed startups,
Very good. Nice transition.
okay. So sorry. So my pick this week is an Apple TV Plus show that Sylvia and I binged in 2 days. I mean, we're fully caught up on the latest episode. It's still ongoing. I believe the limited series will be 10 episodes, I want to say. Anyway, it's WeCrashed. So WeCrashed, it's a mini series based on a podcast from Wondery, another podcast network. Didn't Amazon buy Wondery?
I think so. I think that's
it's now owned by Amazon. So the folks at Wondery did this WeCrashed series, podcast series, and Apple has now done a TV adaptation of the podcast. Now WeCrashed, it's about the rise and fall of WeWork. Now I don't know if you're familiar with WeWork. I'm sure you've seen the memes for the WeWork CEO years ago on Twitter.
Yes.
It was a very memeable individual, I think. But the whole story of WeWork was wild. So WeWork, I guess, John, the best way to describe it, like this is all based on a real story, right? This is based on a real startup called WeWork that still exists. This story is about their failed attempt to launch an IPO, an initial public offering to become a public company in 2019. Now, WeWork still exists as a different CEO. I mean, this is real history. I'm not spoiling anything. This is all public domain.
Right.
So WeWork offers co-working spaces to people. Like they provide office space for people who don't have an office, but also don't want to work in isolation. So they offer co-working space to people all over the world. They have locations. They started in America and in New York specifically, and then they expanded onto other American cities. Then they expanded onto Canada, Europe, Asia. They have multiple locations around the world. And that's the main idea. Like, you can work no matter what you do. You can rent like a conference room or a small, like a corner with a desk and a computer. But like no matter your work, you can subscribe. They have members. You can become a member of WeWork, and you can get your work done at the WeWork locations, and you can also get to meet other people. That's the idea. You can work on your thing, but in an environment where you can also meet other people.
Right.
That sounds like a nightmare to me, but lots of people like it.
Office space as a service is really what it is,
yes.
Right? And it's I guess the hook was their kind of communal spaces where people could get together, meet other people. They would a lot of times have like a bar and
ping pong
tables. There's a really big one right around the corner from Finn's apartment in Dublin, and I walked by last fall, and they had the ping pong table and the beanbag chairs, the whole nine yards. It was all there.
The whole startup aesthetic, but applied to office space, essentially. Right. So that's the idea. Now, WeWork, again, this is a real story, all based on actual events. Was founded by this visionary founder named Adam Newman of Israeli origins. Newman moved to the United States, and after a series of failed attempts at becoming an entrepreneur and launching different startups, different ideas, different projects, he landed on WeWork. Now, the Apple TV Plus series called WeCrashed, just like the podcast, stars Jared Leto and Anne Hathaway. And I can tell you, John, up front, these two are my favorite part of the TV adaptation of WeCrashed. Anne Hathaway is incredible. Like her performance as Adam Newman's wife, Rebecca. I didn't know, by the way, that Rebecca Newman, Rebecca Paltrow, she's the actual cousin of Gwyneth Paltrow.
Oh, really? I didn't know that either.
Yeah, so they have that whole family drama going on there.
Huh.
Yes. But Anne Hathaway as Rebecca Paltrow and then Newman, she is incredible. Like her performance in conveying So Rebecca Newman is this type of like new age / hippie type person, really into yoga, really into feeling the energy of the world and the power of nature. You know, that sort of
Sounds
thing.
very Paltrow.
I know, right?
We won't go into the rest of that.
Yes. I got some candles to sell you, John.
Yes.
But so she tries to bring this sort of ideas to WeWork. But there's also the tension between the fact that Adam Newman is a star and Rebecca many times isn't. And so she also wants to be in the spotlight. But really, the main character here is Adam Newman. And Adam Newman, as like the real Adam Newman, you know, I went back and watched a ton of interviews and watched some of his keynotes. There's one thing you can't deny, which is Adam Newman is one charismatic individual. Like, he's a very energetic, is the type of person you pay attention to when he's on stage. Is almost 2 meters tall, by the way. This is something that obviously Jared Leto isn't. He's quite the short guy.
Right.
But I think Jared Leto is a short guy. I'm not sure about that, actually. But anyway, Adam Newman, very charismatic presence. Like, you pay attention to the guy. And he had a way to pitch WeWork, right? This is the first couple of episodes of WeCrashed are about this. Like, Adam Newman, lots of charisma, lots of character. He can sell people on his energy, on his enthusiasm. He can sell people on the idea of WeWork as this kind of new startup that offers a communal experience for people who want to get their work done amongst other people. There's the fact that Adam Newman, they say in the show, I assume this is all true, that he grew up in a kibbutz. I think that's the way to say it in English. And he finds in his partner, the co-founder of WeWork, Miguel McKelvey, who also grew up in a commune. He finds a person with a similar background in terms of the beauty of growing up and living in a communal space with other people. Mm-hmm. So the first few episodes of WeCrashed are all about this Adam Newman character who somehow manages to convince investors, banks and angel investors, all those types of people, into to convince them to invest in WeWork. But the thing about Adam Newman is that he's the type of guy who is like all over the place in terms of ideas, right? And again, you can see this by watching actual interviews with Adam Newman in terms of like having plans that are much, much bigger than what reality allows at the moment. And that's what, after the first couple of episodes, WeCrashed turns into. This meteoric rise of WeWork and this valuation that's been pumped by investors who bought into Adam Newman's idea, and how he started wasting money left and right? How he started, throwing these lavish parties, tons of alcohol, tons of drugs, trips all over the world. This summer camp that was effectively like a music festival for WeWork employees. Just this opulence everywhere. And despite the fact that it was obvious that he was not fit to be the CEO of that kind of company, of a company of that caliber, and despite the responsibility of having to manage that kind of money, he still somehow managed to pull investors and bankers on his side until the very end, when it became clear that that company was not ready for an IPO, and that actually Adam Newman had been sort of kind of stealing money from not technically stealing, but taking money out of the company in some really shady ways. Like, for example, selling the naming rights of the company to his own company to get the money for the trademark, so that kind of stuff. And so WeCrashed becomes that, sort of like, how is it possible that these investors do not see that this guy is like an adult in the brain of a teenager just wasting money, how do they not see it, what he's doing? It's about that, but it's also about the tension between Adam and Rebecca, and how Rebecca also wants to be part of the action. And because they are in love, because they are a power couple, as they like to say, she somehow convinces Adam to give her money to start a school division of WeWork called WeGrow that is about like this modern, again, sort of hippie, new age style of educating young children and having like this modern school that is not actually a school, but it becomes a way for WeWork to lose focus on their main mission, which was providing office space, to branch out into many other things. WeWork rebranded to the We company at some point because they wanted to expand. They wanted to do We Bike. They wanted to do We Food. They wanted to do We Grow. And eventually they did We Grow, and that failed. So it's this, I guess my recommendation is, if you're a Jared Leto fan or if you're an Anne Hathaway fan, there was some criticism that Jared Leto is doing an Israeli accent that is too thick. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure that criticism is valid. I think it's the kind of thing where, they want to make it work for an ignorant audience, for an American audience, or for someone who's not from Israel.
Yeah, someone who's not familiar.
It's like when they do the Italian accent. I see this when they do the Italian accent.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Like, I know that the Italian accent is not like that.
Super exaggerated, yeah.
Super exaggerated, right? But I really love I think Leto is a perfect fit for this character. Like the energy and the mannerism that he was able to adapt from Adam Newman, really incredible. And Anne Hathaway is incredible. So if you like those actors, watch this series. Also, if you are into the, following the story of this scammers or like grifters, I guess, like people who are obviously scamming other people, and you know how the story ends, but you feel the very particular type of schadenfreude, I guess, in following these stories. Like, yeah, how is it possible that you're gonna get scammed for millions of dollars from somebody who has no idea how to run a company? I don't know, it makes you feel good in a very weird way, I guess. And lastly, just if you're into workplace drama, it's a good workplace drama series that is not too serious. I mean, it's not Severance, it's not a workplace thriller, but it's not a comedy. It's got many comedic moments, though. It's very easy to follow. I'm super into it. I cannot wait for the final episodes.
All right. Well, that sounds great. I'm looking forward to trying it out myself. I mean, look, Federico, as a former bankruptcy lawyer, I love a good story of corporate failure.
Yeah.
And this is a pretty spectacular one. And I think it's really, to me, what's interesting about it is when you really strip away all of the glitz around WeWork, it's just office space. It's renting space, just like renting apartments or renting offices. And they were able to make it something more than that out of sheer willpower, right?
Yes, that's the thing about the show. Like, they make it sound like they're changing the world, where actually, like, bro, you're just renting an office space.
And, there is a little something to it, I think, in the sense that work has become more decentralized and companies have become more decentralized, and it can be useful if you're in a particular type of business, if you're in another city than maybe the headquarters of the company you work for, to have a place to go to. Mm-hmm. But that stuff existed before WeWork, and it still exists now after WeWork. And yeah, it wasn't as revolutionary, I think, as they like to think it was, but it is a very compelling story.
Yeah, he convinced the CEO of SoftBank, the Japanese company.
Oh, right.
To give him, well, I don't want to spoil it because it's a whole moment from the show.
I think it may be, it was one of SoftBank's biggest failed investments, I think.
It's just an incredible amount of money that went down the drain, essentially. Just incredible story. And also, like, go read up the original, because again, this is all actual events. Go read the whole drama of WeWork's failed attempt at an IPO and how all that went down.
I've actually only been in a WeWork once. I went to like I went to a talk one time in one of the Chicago ones that was like an after work talk about iOS or something, and it was really nice. It was really fancy inside. They had like an open bar with beer and wine and snacks, and it didn't cost me anything. And this was just like I like walked in and had all this food and stuff.
It's the bankers paying. So
yeah, obviously. It was actually a very expensive place to rent space because it was in this really nice building, overlooking the Chicago River. And I always wondered when I went in, I was like, who are these people who like freelance? This, they always sold it as like for freelancers and stuff, but it's not the kind of place that I think a lot of freelancers could afford. I think you had to have like a big company behind you paying the bills.
Yeah.
This episode of Mac Stories Unwind is brought to you by Collide. Collide sends employees important, timely, and relevant security recommendations for their Linux, Mac, and Windows devices right inside Slack. Collide is perfect for organizations that care deeply about compliance and security, but don't want to get there by locking down their devices to the point that they become unusable. Instead of frustrating your employees, Collide educates them about security and device management while directing them to fix important problems. Visit collide.com/MSU to sign up today. That's KOLIDE.com/MSU. Enter your email when prompted to receive a free Collide gift bundle after trial activation. At Collide, they know that end users are IT admins' most significant untapped resource and key to solving the most challenging to fix security issues, including instructing developers to set passphrases on unencrypted SSH keys, finding plain text two-factor backup codes and teaching users how to store them securely, convincing employees to uninstall evil browser extensions that may sell their browser history. Those are just some of the many use cases not solved by locking down devices. You can try Collide with all of its features on an unlimited number of devices for free for 14 days, no credit card required. Try it out at collide.com/MSU. That's KOLIDE.com/MSU. Our thanks to Collide for the support of the show. All right, Federico, let's move on to my pick of the week. I'm going to make this relatively short because it's a fantastic album called Wet Leg by the band Wet Leg, and this just came out a week ago. And I have been trying to get you to listen to some of these songs for a long time, and I think you finally did when the album came out. And you kind of
you should have told me that it was a funny album. You should have told me this is funny music.
I should have done that, I guess, because this Chaise Lounge was my song of the year, I think, when we did the picks at the end of the year of last year for Mac Stories Unwind, because I listened to that song. This album has been in the making for a long time. They started trickling out singles back last fall sometime. I want to say maybe September or October. And some of the best tracks came out back then. Wet Dream and Chaise Lounge both are two of my favorite songs on this album. They're very funny. It's two young women are the main people in the band here, and there are 12 tracks. It's a relatively tight, short album. I'm still undecided whether this album is an album with a lot of great tracks or a great album. I'm not sure it's a great album. I feel like there's parts of it that don't hang together super well, and that maybe lean on the humor and the clever lyrics maybe more than they should. I don't know. But that's not to take away from the fact that this is absolutely one of my favorite albums in a while, especially some of the singles on here. How would you describe this sound? It's kind of a very unique alternative sound with a lot of back and forth lyrics between the two main band members.
Yeah, it's this to me sounds like modern indie pop rock, maybe something like that.
Yeah.
It's definitely got that indie sound of like a small band. It doesn't sound like a big band. It doesn't sound like Foo Fighters or The Killers or those types. It's a smaller act. It reminds me of what were they called? Pale Waves. It kind of reminds me of that.
Oh, yeah, I can see that. I can see
Pale
that.
Waves were like the sonic signature of Pale Waves was the throwback to the late 90s, early 2000s, with that sort of aesthetic and lyrics and sound. But overall, it kind of reminds me of that, like smaller band, lead female vocal.
Yep.
It reminds me of Pale Waves. That was also something that I was listening to at the beginning of last year, so the timing is also similar. And the lyrics are just this sort of like ironic, like
I went to school and got the big D.
Which is obviously the degree, right? We all know that, and the Shizlong is also, it's I don't know, it's this kind of telling an ironic, sarcastic story. Like when she says, for example, do you want us to assign someone to worry your mother? Like,
yeah, it's one of my favorite lyrics.
Yes, the lyrics are just incredible, and they are witty and funny, and they are memorable, which is also important. But yeah, it sounds like a small indie band, but it sounds original. It sounds new. It sounds fresh. And that's a quality that I don't hear in a lot of similar acts these days.
Yeah,
it reminds me also of, to an extent, again, similar configuration when you think about it. Charlie Bliss, another indie pop rock band from a few years ago.
That's another good comparison. Very good, Federico. Yeah,
well, thank you.
I think with Pale Waves, it's the big difference there is that this sound is more unique to Wet Leg than maybe. It doesn't have that kind of 90s feel to it necessarily.
It doesn't.
It feels more current in that sense. But yeah, I do think Charlie Bliss is another really good comparison. But there's I think the last single that came out was Angelica right before the album came out. Good tune there. What are the other ones? Your Mom. I think that's a good one. And there's a really good video for that I downloaded as part of a shortcut that I did called My Tunes. Yeah. So it's a lot of fun. It's definitely, you watch the music videos, you get the sense that this is very much a band on the rise with very low budget kind of music videos, but the videos are very funny in the same way some of the songs are. And I don't know, I've had these tunes on repeat for a long time, and they're the kind of things that are just kind of I don't know, they cheer me up a little bit. They're kind of light and funny and a nice little break. So definitely check that out. All right, Federico, that's it for this week of Mac Stories Unwind. Thanks again to Collide for sponsoring this episode. You can find the two of us at macstories.net. Federico's on Twitter and Instagram, where he's at Viticci. That's VITICCI. And I'm at John Voorhees. JOHNVOORHWS. Talk to you next week, Federico.
Ciao, John.